And we were sitting there, and Jack looked up and said, "Oh, there's Terry." And I sort of knew of Terry Pratchett by that point, and Terry was starting to be famous, and there'd been an interview in Interzone magazine about Discworld and so forth, and so I had some idea what this was about, but I hadn't actually read any Discworld books at this point. And Terry was there not to give a talk, he was there as a fan.
Yes.
He just turned up as well, because he was sort of going back to his roots, if you wish. So Jack grabbed Terry, and the three of us went and had lunch, which was probably a baked potato and chilli, whatever, the same as now. I mean, it was something like that. It was just the convention lunch. And started talking to each other, and we got on like house on fire.
Yeah.
So for years after that, whenever Jack and I were passing near where Terry lived, we would drop off. On one occasion he filled the boot of my car with carnivorous plants to take back to my wife, who was keen gardener, and Terry was keen on carnivorous plants, and so forth. And
among that so forth, he gave me 3 of his box turtles who got so fat that you couldn't, you squeezed the back and the head came out, you squeezed the front and the tail came out. They couldn't close up both ends. You know the box turtles with the door at each end? It closes up and says "Gone to lunch" on it, and his were too fat, so he gave them to me to spend a year in the thing about this size in the middle of the house with lots of plants in it, a kind of jungle in the middle of the house I had, and
I remember him saying to you on one occasion, "Jack, we are like gods to our turtles."
Yes.
But I am a New Testament God, and you are an Old Testament God.
He said that, yes. Right. But they came to be made small, thin. Yeah.
So it was just that it sort of then the idea of doing a book together emerged from the fact that we knew we got on with each other. We knew.
And he'd done Figments for us.
Yes, he'd read some of our stuff and helped out, and asked. I think the crucial question he asked in terms of organising it was, "What's it about?" Can you sum it up in one sentence?
Could you?
Not at that point.
I think I said everything. When he said, "What's it about?"
Yeah.
That's one word.
He said, the other thing he said was, he felt he was being pushed up to the top of the roller coaster ride for a plunge down the other side, and what happened was the tracks disappeared.
That's right. Yes, I
so we needed a bit more structure on the far side of the middle of the book, having pushed the reader up to the point at which we... The subsequent chapters basically undid everything we'd said in the early chapters.
We've done that in Klatsch.
We've done that in Collapse, that's right. In fact, I think it was Collapse that remark came from. But anyway, so Terry was familiar with the sort of stuff we did, and we were familiar with what he did. And we all kind of felt that there was some way to do something.
The Star Trek thing was just so awful that we all felt there was a bloody great hole next to it waiting to be filled.
Well, it gave us the idea.
Star Trek thing in it.
Yeah, it gave us the idea, but we realised that you can't do it the way, you can't explain how faster than light travel warp drives could work.
No, that isn't the way to do it. Tachyons and equations, all kinds of things.
It sort of works for physics of Star Trek to some extent, because it's a way of introducing some interesting physics, but it doesn't relate very closely to Star Trek in the end. But then, when Terry pointed out that we couldn't do anything remotely like that anyway...
because there's no science in
this turned out, this was a very important remark, because it forced us to do it the right way.
Yes. What turned out to be the right way.
Much more I was saying to somebody in the corridor that, I think it was to, I've forgotten your name.
Sure.
Yeah, Gerda, over there, I think it was, that because of the way we did it, this is the reason we've got Science of Discworld 4 coming out, and there is no Physics of Star Trek 2.
Yes, that's exactly so, yes.
Once you've done it,
Yes.
there isn't enough material or new things to do that you could do a sequel. So you have to do something else. You have to
I'm
do
reading something
Science
on
of
my...
the X-Files instead, or whatever.
Yes. They've done science from everything up to... what's the one that Henry G did?
Henry G did Science of Harry Potter,
Yes.
unauthorised.
Yes.
Yeah. Henry's just done. Henry G is a nature editor. He's just done a science fiction trilogy.
I know, I've just read it and done a blurb for it.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah.
Well, I've only read the first one so far, but
No.
yeah, it's quite
They're
good.
quite good.
Yes.
Yes, he writes very, very well.
He does write very well. Yes. Yes. Yes, he showed scientists can write fiction. I think that was part of my.
But he's much more an editor than a scientist.
Oh yeah, but
He gets all the paleontology right.
Oh, he's bound to get the paleontology right. Well,
That's
it
right.
is, including the 2 million year old civilization that built
Yes.
2-mile high giant pyramids all over Europe.
Yes,
Which have all worn down again, so that's why you don't realise they're there.
yes. And if you have the wisdom of his hero, you can look at a landscape and say, this was an artificial landscape. That's the nice way.
He does more than that. The hero looks at the landscape, takes lots of measurements, feeds them into his computer, says the bends in the river are 16% away from what they would be if they were running naturally through this terrain, therefore the rivers must have been engineered,
Yes.
and so forth.
And
Yeah.
there's probably a city under this mound, and there are cities under the mound.
Yes.
Yes.
It's very interesting.
A very interesting widescreen kind of.
Yeah. So, yes. So, we interacted with Henry in various ways. He's the editor responsible for Nature. I don't know.
Biology.
Yeah, but Nature is one of the great science journals, but it has news and it has it has technical papers, very, very high quality, but it has news items and other bits and pieces. And these days, at the back, it has a one-page science fiction story.
Yes. And he runs that.
He runs that. And we think it started when we had lunch with him and said, Henry, what you need is a science fiction page where each week it takes a science fiction trope, like
time travel, or faster
and
light.
it says the classic book of the 50s was, the classic book of the 60s was, and so forth, and ends up maybe 4 books on time travel with one that was published last week. And Henry thought about this and came back a few months later and said, that won't work for various reasons, but...
Can I have a one-page
Yes,
science fiction story?
Can I have a 1,000-word science fiction story? And so he ran this thing, and it ran for just over a year. And then they closed it down, because they thought they'd done it to death. And then a lot of the readers wrote in and said, what's happened to the science fiction story?